Welcome to Iraqi Dinar News, where you receive real and authentic updates about the Iraqi dinar. If you want to stay informed with moment-by-moment developments, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Today, we are taking a closer look at a topic that has generated significant discussion among Iraqi dinar followers and economic observers alike. Recent commentary has highlighted several developments that some analysts believe could point toward continued progress in Iraq's monetary and banking reforms. These observations include a reported reduction in citizens' preference for holding US dollars, expectations that the gap between the official and parallel exchange rates may continue to narrow, ongoing engagement between Iraqi and US officials, and the continued rollout of banking reforms by the Central Bank of Iraq. While some market commentators interpret these developments as potentially supportive of future currency strength, it is important to remember that no official announcement has confirmed any major change in Iraq's exchange rate policy. With that balanced perspective in mind, let's examine what these developments could mean for Iraq's economy and for those who closely follow the Iraqi dinar. One of the most frequently discussed indicators is the reported decline in the public's preference for holding US dollars instead of Iraqi dinars. For many years, Iraq has experienced a significant degree of dollarization. Businesses, investors, and even ordinary citizens often preferred conducting transactions or storing wealth in US dollars because of its international stability and purchasing power. This preference developed over decades due to political uncertainty, inflationary pressures, and fluctuations in Iraq's financial system. When economists observe a gradual increase in confidence toward the national currency, they generally consider it a positive structural development. If households and businesses become more willing to hold savings in dinars instead of dollars, it can improve the effectiveness of monetary policy, strengthen liquidity within the domestic banking system, and reduce dependence on foreign currency for everyday transactions. However, this is typically a gradual process rather than an overnight transformation. Sustainable confidence usually develops through consistent economic policies, banking reforms, inflation control, and political stability rather than through a single event. Another topic attracting attention is the relationship between Iraq's official exchange rate and the parallel market exchange rate. The existence of a sizable difference between these two rates has long been viewed as one of the challenges facing Iraq's financial system. The official exchange rate is established by the Central Bank of Iraq, while the parallel market reflects supply and demand conditions outside the official banking channels. Over the past several years, Iraqi authorities have repeatedly emphasized their objective of narrowing this gap. Achieving greater alignment between the official and market rates can improve transparency, reduce opportunities for currency speculation, and increase confidence among both domestic and international investors. Banking reforms designed to improve access to official foreign exchange markets have also been aimed at reducing pressure on the parallel market. Some analysts interpret improving conditions in the parallel market as a constructive sign for Iraq's broader financial reform agenda. However, it is important to distinguish between improvements in exchange market efficiency and assumptions about future exchange rate adjustments. While healthier currency markets may strengthen the overall financial environment, they do not automatically indicate that an official change in the value of the Iraqi dinar is imminent. Such decisions remain entirely within the authority of the Central Bank of Iraq and would depend on a wide range of macroeconomic considerations. A third factor receiving considerable attention is the continued engagement between Iraqi officials and their counterparts in the United States. Economic cooperation between the two countries extends across multiple areas, including banking compliance, anti-money laundering measures, financial transparency, investment, energy development, and broader economic modernization. International cooperation often plays an important role in strengthening confidence in emerging financial systems. Collaboration with global financial institutions and international partners can help Iraq improve regulatory standards, modernize payment systems, strengthen banking supervision, and facilitate greater integration into the global financial system. For many observers, high-level diplomatic engagement demonstrates continued international interest in Iraq's long-term economic development. Strong diplomatic relationships may encourage foreign investment, enhance technical cooperation, and support institutional reforms. Nevertheless, diplomatic meetings alone should not be interpreted as confirmation of future currency policy decisions. Monetary policy remains an independent function of the Central Bank of Iraq and is typically guided by economic data rather than political speculation. Another significant element of the current discussion involves the ongoing reform initiatives being implemented by the Central Bank of Iraq. During recent years, Iraqi authorities have introduced numerous measures intended to modernize the country's financial sector. These initiatives include strengthening banking regulations, improving electronic payment infrastructure, enhancing compliance with international financial standards, expanding digital banking services, and increasing transparency in foreign exchange operations. Financial modernization is often viewed as one of the essential building blocks for a stronger national economy. Efficient banking systems improve capital allocation, facilitate business investment, encourage private sector development, and increase public confidence in financial institutions. These reforms can also improve Iraq's ability to attract international investors who typically place considerable importance on financial transparency and regulatory stability. Supporters of Iraq's long-term economic outlook frequently argue that these institutional improvements create a stronger foundation for future monetary stability. Even so, central banks generally prioritize maintaining financial stability over making sudden policy changes. This means reforms are often implemented gradually to minimize disruptions and preserve confidence in the financial system. The news paragraph also refers to the idea that several structural indicators are converging simultaneously. From an analytical perspective, convergence simply means that multiple economic trends appear to be moving in a similar direction. For example, stronger banking reforms, improved public confidence, better exchange market management, expanding international cooperation, and increased financial transparency may collectively suggest progress toward a more mature financial system. Economists often pay close attention to such convergence because sustainable improvements usually involve multiple sectors advancing together rather than relying on a single positive development. A stronger banking sector alone may not be sufficient if inflation remains high. Likewise, favorable exchange market conditions may have limited impact without continued political stability or fiscal discipline. Durable economic progress typically reflects improvements across numerous interconnected areas. One reason the Iraqi dinar continues to receive so much international attention is Iraq's considerable economic potential. The country possesses substantial energy resources, relatively low public debt compared with many economies, significant foreign exchange reserves, and opportunities for infrastructure expansion. If managed effectively, these strengths could support long-term economic growth. Oil revenue remains a central pillar of Iraq's economy. Higher oil prices generally strengthen government revenue, allowing increased investment in infrastructure, public services, and economic diversification. However, dependence on oil also creates vulnerability because fluctuations in global energy markets can significantly influence fiscal performance. This is why Iraqi policymakers have repeatedly emphasized the importance of developing non-oil sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, tourism, logistics, and technology. Diversification plays an important role in building long-term currency stability. Economies supported by multiple productive sectors tend to experience more balanced growth and greater resilience during periods of external economic uncertainty. Continued efforts to expand private sector activity may therefore strengthen Iraq's broader economic outlook over time. For followers of the Iraqi dinar, discussions surrounding monetary reform often generate considerable excitement. However, experienced economists generally recommend focusing on official announcements and measurable economic indicators, rather than relying solely on speculation. Central banks usually communicate significant policy decisions through formal channels after careful analysis of inflation, reserve levels, economic growth, financial stability, and broader macroeconomic conditions. When evaluating commentary suggesting that appreciation is approaching, viewers should distinguish between opinion and confirmed policy. Market analysts are entitled to interpret available information, but interpretations should not be mistaken for official decisions. Responsible financial analysis requires acknowledging both positive developments and remaining uncertainties. In the short term, continued banking modernization may improve transaction efficiency, strengthen regulatory compliance, and encourage greater use of formal financial institutions. Businesses may benefit from more efficient payment systems, while consumers could experience expanded access to electronic banking services. Investors may also view continued reforms as evidence that Iraq remains committed to financial modernization. Short-term improvements in market confidence may also contribute to greater stability within domestic financial markets. If confidence continues to improve, businesses may become more willing to invest, banks may expand lending activity, and economic planning could become more predictable. Looking further ahead, the long-term implications of successful reforms could be even more significant. A stronger banking sector, improved governance, enhanced transparency, diversified economic growth, and continued institutional development could collectively strengthen Iraq's position within the regional and global economy. Such progress may improve investor confidence, encourage foreign direct investment, and support sustainable economic expansion. Nevertheless, long-term success depends on consistent policy implementation. Structural reforms often require years rather than months to fully achieve their intended results. Building strong financial institutions involves continuous improvements in regulation, technology, governance, education, and public confidence. Global economic conditions also remain an important consideration. International interest rates, energy prices, geopolitical developments, and global trade trends all influence emerging economies, including Iraq. Policymakers must therefore balance domestic priorities with external economic realities when making monetary decisions. It is also worth remembering that exchange rate policy represents only one aspect of overall economic development. A healthy economy depends on many interconnected factors, including employment growth, inflation control, infrastructure investment, education, healthcare, fiscal responsibility, legal certainty, and private sector competitiveness. Sustainable currency strength generally reflects improvements across the broader economy rather than isolated policy actions. The Central Bank of Iraq has consistently emphasized financial stability as one of its primary objectives. Stability helps protect purchasing power, encourages investment, and supports confidence in the national currency. While market participants naturally monitor any signs of potential policy evolution, central banks generally avoid actions that could undermine financial stability or create unnecessary market volatility. For Iraqi citizens, continued economic reforms may gradually improve access to financial services, create new employment opportunities, encourage entrepreneurship, and strengthen domestic investment. For international observers, Iraq's progress demonstrates the importance of institutional development in supporting long-term economic resilience. The recent discussion surrounding reduced dollar preference, improving exchange market conditions, international engagement, and banking reform certainly provides interesting material for analysis. These developments may indicate that Iraq continues moving toward a more modern and resilient financial system. However, it remains essential to separate confirmed policy actions from forward-looking expectations until any official monetary policy changes are formally announced by the appropriate Iraqi authorities. Discussions regarding future exchange rate adjustments remain analytical opinions rather than established facts. As always, the most reliable approach is to monitor official statements from the Central Bank of Iraq and other relevant government institutions while evaluating broader economic data in context. Responsible analysis requires patience, objectivity, and recognition that meaningful economic reforms often unfold over extended periods. Thank you for watching today's Iraqi Dinar News Update. If you appreciate balanced, factual, and responsible coverage of developments affecting Iraq's economy and the Iraqi dinar, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss future updates. As always, this content is provided for informational and educational purposes only. It should not be considered financial, investment, or trading advice. Always conduct your own research and consult qualified financial professionals before making any investment decisions.